like the violin, but it could be a little humbling because you could be out of tune or make mistakes. It's very hard to play it, but it pays off.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Joanne Williams. This week we'll meet the New World griots and hear some of their poetry. We'll hear from author Tanarive Due, and we'll talk with a World War II veteran who experienced life in the segregated armed services. But we begin with a reprise of one of our most requested segments, a profile of Hannah White. She's an outstanding violinist whose accomplishments are astounding, especially since she's only 13.
Meet Wisconsin native Hannah White. Hannah White has played the violin since she was 6 years old and is at a level where she now attends an academy in Illinois for gifted pre-college musicians. Hannah enjoys the violin most when she performs and competes.
I like the violin, but it could be a little humbling because you could be out of tune or make mistakes. It's very hard to play it, but it pays off in the end.
What's your favorite song or songs to play?
I actually like every song I play, but my favorite composers are Shostakovich, Tchaikovsky, Prokofiev, Sibelius, and Khachaturian.
Who accompanies you when you play?
When I'm in Illinois, I use Mrs. Milana. Otherwise, I use my brothers, Jonah White and Joshua White.
Having supportive parents has helped Hannah on her musical journey.
When Hannah first started playing the violin, she was 6.5, and we made it a bonding experience with her. Stephen didn't really know the violin, but he would hold the music for her, and then so she would get to spend time with Dad, and so that was their bonding time, and we encouraged her a lot.
She really enjoys playing the violin, so we really appreciated that in a daughter that was so young to adapt to responsibility in the area of music.
She has brothers. How are they involved in the music world?
They accompany her, and they play the piano. They compete. So they have a very active piano life, just like Hannah has an active violin life.
For more information on Hannah White, you can contact 262-628-8845.
Today we take it for granted that the United States Armed Services are fully integrated. Men and women of different backgrounds have equal opportunity to serve their country and be respected for their service. Unfortunately, that was not the case during World War II.
I went to school for the gunnery, but whites wouldn't serve. They wouldn't let you fly. They wouldn't serve with you. They refused to fly with you. So that put it out there. So you had to find something else.
James McKee was one of the 2.5 million black Americans who served in the segregated army. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor at the end of 1941, Americans of all stripes enlisted or were drafted into the armed services. But because of segregation, black soldiers were trained and remained stateside much longer than their white counterparts. McKee remembers training in Biloxi, Mississippi.
They had a governor that I can recall was named Bilbo. Boy, that guy, I'm telling you, he told Roosevelt that no black soldier would carry a gun in this state. So we trained with wooden guns. One thing happening down there I'll never forget, and as old as I am today. A white girl said a black soldier raped her, and they both didn't want to come out. They was at the gate. They wouldn't, they wouldn't ever come in that gate. So then they brought her in, and she picked out 9 different men, and wasn't either one of them in town that night.
But inside the base, things were different.
On the base, there was no discrimination whatsoever. When you come on that base, Colonel Barnhill would tell them that you're on this base, you're under my rules and regulations. And you want to work on the base, okay. If you don't want to go under my rules, you don't come on this base.
That changed when McKee was transferred to a base near Yakima, Washington.
The town wasn't discriminated. The base were. We had all white officers. We couldn't go to the main PX, and if we went up there, we had to stand outside and have a white man to go in and buy cigarettes or soap for us. We could never go. We couldn't go in the main PX. They was in there shooting pools and drinking beer and playing music, but we could not go in.
In some instances, prisoners of war received better treatment than black soldiers.
We got into Texas that morning, and we went into a place called Greg Harvey restaurant. They would feed the German prisoners, but they wouldn't let the black soldiers in there, and they wouldn't let even black guys with guard and guard. The Germans go in there. Now that's in you talking about hurting. Now that was a hurt.
McKee eventually got to serve on the Pacific Front.
I was in Asia. I mean, in Asia, otherwise we would call it that. I was in India, back in India and Burma. But that's as far as I would go with that. I won't go any further with that one. And that was no. You had white soldiers all year then. See, they was. I mean, as far as the war is concerned, I've never had no good experience with that.
James McKee and his brother Brenson are the two surviving brothers of 6 who served during World War II. In June of 2012, he went on an honor flight to Washington, D.C. to see the World War II memorial.
That honor flight was the most enjoyable thing that ever happened to me. Since I was in the Army, out of the Army, this is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I had the most enjoyable trip. That I didn't even think it was going to be that way. I mean, because you're a little leery, but my brother had told me how nice it was and how they treated you. It was the most enjoyable thing, and I have a little girl. When we got before we got on the bus, a little girl about that big give me a little thing, said thank you. Say I got it on my shirt that that. And I thought that I cried. I swear that the little girl about this, but we couldn't have been no more than 4 or 5 years old. And I thought people had forgot about it. They had forgot to go. This, they never give you the run around like they used to when the guys come in, and now they give them all this stuff. But from during World War II, when you got back, you go that way and you go that way. And you the guys that you served with, but this was the most. I mean, the honor flight. I don't know who thought of that, but the guy he deserved a medal.
The ladies of Delta Sigma Theta sorority lined up to meet and greet an author who maybe scares them with her writings. Tananarive Due.
My books are about optimism. Life is scary. It really is. There are things that happen in everyday life, and as we get older, and the losses that we suffer, and the things that we have to face that are very, very scary. So number one, writing supernatural suspense is writing about things that are scary, but they're not real. You see, there's a difference between what's real, as in you're pumping on your brakes and they won't work, and you're barreling into an 18-wheeler, and what's fake, which is like some monster chasing you through your house.
And this audience came for the monster chasing you through the house stuff, also to meet this author of color who decided to venture into the world of scary stuff an author with a different sounding name. You have an interesting name.
Oh.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my first name is the capital city of Madagascar. My mother, while she was in college, was taking a course in contemporary Africa. She learned about the nation of Madagascar, and Tananarive was the capital city. It's now called Antananarivo, but at the time it was Tananarive.
Even the last name, too, though.
Sounds exotic. No, you know, the rumor I have from Dew is that it was an Irish name that my dad's side of the family had from Indiana, so I don't know if that's true or not. If someone knows, they can tell me.
You write, I call them spooky books, even though you've changed into some other genres, but why that?
I've just always been fascinated by that feeling of fright. And there are so few circumstances where you want to be afraid in a safe environment, you know, or because most times you're afraid it's not safe. So horror books, horror movies always gave me the opportunity to sort of poke at that place inside me that liked to be scared, but giving me the chance to pull back. And I think on a deeper level, the reason I write it is that my characters teach me so much. I mean, when you think about it, I have characters who have to deal with discovering that their husbands are immortal, for example, as in My Soul to Keep, or in The Between, it's a story about a man who's in between life and death and being chased by nightmares. So I watch these characters face these terrible circumstances and become stronger and grow and rise to the occasion. And really, I'm hoping I can learn from them. That's the whole secret.
The question of mortality inspired her to write her first book, The Between. Her second book, My Soul to Keep, introduced her immortals, asking two questions.
How does a mixed relationship between an immortal and a mortal work? You know, especially when the immortal comes from a society of other immortals who do not like you to mingle with mortals and who have told you, even though you love your wife and child, it's time for you to go back where you belong with your own people. So that's what My Soul to Keep is about. It's really a love story, believe it or not.
The sequel to My Soul to Keep is her most recent novel.
The Living Blood basically asks two questions. Number one, what would the world be like if there were a blood that could heal almost any disease? And if you had that blood running in your veins, you were immortal. You know, that blood will replenish you forever. And also, what lengths would people go to get it is the question. And the second thing, which is really close to my heart, is how do you raise a powerful child? Because I have an immortal child in this book, and she's more powerful than her mother. She's more powerful than anybody. So how do you raise a child who's actually more powerful than you?
Moving from the supernatural, Tananarive Due wrote The Black Rose, a fictionalization of America's first black female millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker. She has also written a book with her mother entitled Freedom in the Family. It tells the story of the personal price paid by the families of civil rights activists in the 60s.
Part of it is from her point of view as a young woman going to college in the South in the 1960s. She didn't plan to become a civil rights activist. I don't think any of those kids planned to become civil rights activists. They were just at a place and a time in history when they got swept into it. She ended up spending 49 days in jail for taking part in the first really jail-in the student sit-in movement, where they wouldn't pay their fines and decided they would stay in jail just for sitting at a lunch counter trying to order a hamburger. You know, that was their crime. But back then, that was a crime. And just the price that she paid emotionally and the other activists paid emotionally. And for me, I was writing about what it was like to grow up in a household headed by two civil rights activists, because my father is a civil rights attorney and my mother was an activist, and growing up in the 80s in integrated neighborhoods. And we faced challenges in integrated neighborhoods that my parents, when they were our age, never faced because they were in segregated neighborhoods. So there wasn't that daily contact, with people who didn't like you.
For those who love to watch as well as read supernatural stuff, there is a movie in the works. My Soul to Keep is headed to the big screen with Blair Underwood acting, producing, and directing, with Lalibela, Ethiopia being one of the movie locations.
Pepper love. I got a pepper from my baby that makes me grin and sweat. Eye watering, lip burning, breathtaking, hiccup making. Hot pepper from my baby that makes me grin and sweat. like the love so hot between us, the feeling that we get when we touch and kiss and rub each other slow, so sweet, so cool, so hot that I cannot resist that taste, that full-bodied, spicy taste in the times we are together. I got a pepper from my baby that makes me grin and sweat. Labrina's Blues. No sense crying about spilled milk, or so the saying goes. But I don't know. I don't know in this land of rivers what currents may prevail. For when that milk is mixed with blood and the tragic stories told, crying is all I think of doing. Crying is all I do. For the life that's ended, the life that's lost, and the wasting through and through. 'Cause before that severed artery and the letting of the blood, before the screaming anger and the assaults that were to come, before that crimson tunic that confirmed the gruesome deed, wasn't Labrina watching her own milk, white innocence, spilled and cast into the streets, believing dreams were shriveling like raisins in the sun or festering, infected wounds just about to run? Was life already sagging like some heavy load, or was she like so many unstable compounds shook from hope and ready to explode in milk and blood puddled on the floor? No sense crying about spilled milk, but cry I do for the life that's ended, the life that's lost, and the wasting through and through.
The Legacy is a collection of poems by the New World Griots. We're joined by Charles McLean and Reggie Finlayson from the group. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
How long have you been writing poetry? Charles, how long have you been writing poetry?
Since I was 15 years old. I started writing at Roosevelt Junior High School.
Only about 20 years ago.
Plus, maybe 50, actually.
How about you?
I started when I was about 13, 14 as well.
Do young people today realize that poetry can be almost anything? Do they recognize poetry when they hear it in their own music?
Well, I would say so. I mean, there's a very active poetry scene nowadays with hip-hop poetry, and of course there's Poetry Unplugged, weekly basis, Spitfire, another active group. So I think they're kind of aware of poetry.
And this book, The Legacy, is dedicated to one of the 4 poets whose work is in here, correct?
Yeah, it was dedicated in its memory of Falami Abiyade. She passed away December 2012. She had been battling cancer, and she had passed away 1 week before the book was published. Yes.
Does writing poetry make you feel better?
It gives me an opportunity to express myself, to share my feelings, to share my observations of the world around me, and it's soothing to the soul. That's the best way I can put it.
How would you define it?
Well, I write to express my views. I started writing and was influenced by the Black arts movement, so I always saw art as a way of projecting a political perspective. So I do a lot of that, as well as observations of nature and my own feelings.
So this book is going to be available for anybody to share, to read your poetry. And if a young poet wants to do some writing, what's the one tip you would give him or her?
Don't censor yourself before you get it down on paper. Let the juices flow and then edit yourself after the fact.
What would you say, Charles?
I would just say to be honest, to be truthful, to express exactly how you feel. Don't be afraid of that. Don't ever be afraid of it.
Okay. Well, I'd be interested. I love to listen to poetry, and I love to listen to your poetry too. Thank you very much for talking with us.
You're welcome.
When a child dies before his time, surrounded by corruption, deprivation, and crime, when a child dies before his time, life snatched away for no reason or rhyme, When a young heart ceases to beat, it's time to live, taken away by the heat and fire of city streets. There ain't enough tears that can be shed, ain't enough sorrow or loss to comfort his young deathbed when a child dies before his time. Ain't no rap, rhythm, or rhyme to make up for lost life and lost time. In the mood today is everyday happenings ain't no big deal, and yet you can't bring back a life no one had a right to steal. Ain't no colors, no matter what hue, ain't no street with numbers made of concrete and steel that really don't belong to me or you, give you the right to do the things that you do when a child dies before his time. Pride lives in knowledge, compassion, and love. And when a child dies before his time, death denies him a right to live and thrive, exist or survive, fall in love or make up or change his mind, prosper or suffer need and feel, grasp the knowledge or push it aside. Death denies him the privilege to decide when a child dies before his time. And at times it seems to me the dream of freedom has died and we all living a lie when a child dies before his time. Reaching for the gift of grace, reaching for time denied, reaching for sanity in a world of insanity, reaching for the dream shot down by reality, reaching for love, warm, sweet security, reaching for one more ounce of sunlight, one more breath of air, one more morning to arrive. When a child dies before his time, one more life is snatched away. And tears ain't enough, and fears ain't enough, and money can't buy him love. When a child dies, looking for an answer. When a child dies consumed by ignorance, spreading like a cancer. When a child dies looking for some kind of solution, some kind of answer, look inside your heart for the real answer and hold his dreams in your heart and see his deprivation, see his pain, see his struggle, see his dreams, know his name, and give him reason to never take life for granted. And when a child lives with a reason to survive, others will feel his knowledge, compassion, and love that live inside.
And that's our program for this week. For Black Nouveau, I'm Joanne Williams. Thanks for watching. Good night.